What's up, guys? Today we are going over chapter 1117 of One Piece, and let me just say, this chapter was an absolute banger. After a break, this is just the chapter we needed to get back into the mood. It had a great mix of combat, plot, and lore. We find out more from Vegapunk, get some Zoro and Jinbei join action here, and find out more about the name of D and the Iron Giant. So, without further ado, let's just go over this chapter. We start off with the cover chapter, with Yamato continuing her journey, meeting up with Cat Viper, who looks super fitting as a Yakuza boss. She gives him a hug and looks really happy. Super nice to see her enjoying her journey just like Odin did during his travels. I'm convinced that she'll meet up with our crew in the final arc of the story and most likely have learned a lot about herself too. In a small panel, it seems to show Don, Krieg, and Jin, and it's cool to know they're still around. It's going to be super interesting to see if they come back in the story in some capacity, especially since we didn't know Jin was alive or not. Now we start the chapter with some pirates on Pirate Island freaking out about the recent revelations of Vegapunk, which was that the sea level has risen and sunk most of the world compared to how it used to be. So of course, these guys' first thoughts is there's probably a lot of treasure under the sea, which they can't get since they can't afford a submarine, but I wonder how much treasure actually is there. We know the world was more advanced, so I'm assuming there actually is a lot of treasure, but guess we'll see towards the end of the story, huh? Then we see the GOAT, Captain motherfucking Kobe. If y'all don't know, I am the biggest Kobe glazer and knew he would get a big power up before the Pirate Island moment. He's been talking about the recent events with his comrades like Helmeppo and Prince as he recovers in the hospital bed. We see also ex Drake rooting in the hospital bed, and it's a pretty foreboding panel as we wonder what's going through his head. It's good to know he's still alive, and I hope they give us more info on his story because his dad was killed by Doflamingo. He didn't give a shit about it, he just wanted to focus on himself. He became a double agent, and I always found him a very interesting character, so I really do hope he gets more expanded upon as we go through the story. But speaking of peak characters, we see Smoker, and Smoker's been done so dirty in this story, but we see him talking to Tashigi as he heads over to the hospital where the other sword members are recovering. As I discussed in the spoiler review, I wonder if Tashigi and more importantly Smoker will get power-ups. He got beat pretty low difficulty in his last fight with Virgo. I'm sure he trained more after that. Being 36 years old though, he probably won't grow as fast as the rest of our cast, but considering he used to be a rival for Luffy and he was such a cool character pre-time skip, it would be nice to see him have some relevance in the story again. And then we finally get back to Egghead, as the barrier that has been trapping the Straw Hat crew has finally opened up enough to let them through. The cola barrels are loaded and they're ready to blast off, although they may land on a fleet of ships, so they're worried about that. Jinbei and Zoro chase after Nusjuro as he tries to cut the Sunny before it can escape. The crew is freaking out. You see one of the five elders blow up right before them, but just in the nick of time, Jinbei uses Fishman Karate to shoot Zoro towards the Great Elder, and they clash with their hockey and named attacks. Zoro's two sword, Sukvadi's Bliss, and Nusjuro's Rashomon. And this is a cool part of the story because Sukvadi in Buddhism is referred to the Pure Land or Land of Bliss. So having an attack called Sukvadi's Bliss is pretty neat. Now, the attack Nusjuro uses, Rashomon, makes a lot of sense in context because the definition of Rashomon is usually defined as difficulty knowing the truth. And we know the five elders wanted to hide the truth of the world. Oda always puts a lot of meaning into his stories, and Oda, we trust y'all. That was a really cool moment once I did some research. Also, just a really cool sounding attack, Rashomon. They repel each other away as the Elder notices that Zoro has a Kitetsu blade. This is cool because we've theorized that Nusjuro has the Shodai Kitetsu, one of the 12 Supreme Great Blades, which would only be the fourth we've seen so far. Zoro also has one of the Kitetsu, and Luffy had one for a brief period in Wano. They're all considered to be cursed, which is why Zoro threw up one in the air at the start of the series, if you guys remember, to see if it would cut his arm. But it's great to see the fight, and the Gorosei obviously will escape, but it would be interesting to see where they fall power scaling wise compared to the Admirals and the Yonko. As Luffy rushes back to the ship with Dory and Bragi, Oimo and Kashi are ordered to lead the giant pirates to prepare their ship as they tear through the Navy fleet. We see why they were such a feared force back when they were a band 100 years ago, as with their size and strength, they're easily just tearing through fleets of ships like paper. And we finally get some action from the Vice Admirals as Bluegrass blasts a hole in the hull and gives a great speech of stepping up and not just being another member of the crowd. Doll also beats up one of the giants, and it's cool to see an admiral with a punk slash goth theme and use an attack called Rock and Roll Blaster, since Katakuri is my favorite character also, so you know where I stand on that. It's great to get actually some fights and individuality from the Vice Admirals. A problem that's in One Piece sometimes is the Vice Admirals get a little bit shafted, so it's good to see some of the not top tier characters get some development in that aspect. We see the remaining 4 out of 5 elders attack the Iron Giant as the last part of Vegapunk's message plays. They notice it's the same Iron Giant that ravaged Mary Joyce 200 years ago, which is cool to have them notice that. And as we hear Vegapunk reach out to those with D in their name, the boar attacks the Iron Giant and the message is cut off, so we get edged again on that. But overall, really great chapter, guys. We're still waiting for all the info about the D clan to be revealed, but I'm sure it will soon. Egghead seems to be coming to a close soon. The Gorosei have failed, so we'll see how Eam takes that and how they take that on themselves. I'm sure we'll have a few intermission chapters before Elbaf starts, but this arc is no doubt one of the best in the series. The reveals, big moments, new powers, and the fights, by far one of the best. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. I want to grow this channel as a community with you guys. I love anime, manga, webtoons, all that shit, and I'm excited to continue the adventure with y'all. Peace.